Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for those kind words, Ed. I'm surprised. But really, really quite good. So I'm here really to talk today about what I guess a lot of people start to ask is what happens beyond the basics. One thing for me is very much we focus wholly and solely on those 5 principles of regenerative agriculture. But in actual fact, everybody always asks for more. So I thought I'd give an insight as to where we are and where we're heading and what we're doing at home at Townsend. The 5-point plan, I can't explain in half an hour, so it's now a 4-point plan of how to regenerate everything. So for me, one of the most important things we've started to do is public integration of our farm. I will touch on that again in a minute. We talk about diversity and the importance of diversity, but have we ever considered how important diversity really is and how far you can drive your own business to become more and more diverse? KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. It is so important on our farm at home. Unfortunately, I don't spend a lot of time there, that everything is set out in such a way that in actual fact, no, that's a real insult to say Helen needs to. She's not stupid. She's a great wife. But what we try and do is make sure that the fundamentals of everything we try and do at home are very, very simple, easy to follow. And something we focused on an awful lot, certainly at the start of our journey, but we're getting more and more obsessed with, and Harry's touched on it many times, the cost of farming. We focus massively on appreciation over depreciation. And I'm going to touch on what we do and how we do that. So a little bit about my farm. Where are we? That's us. Our 220 hectares of that tiny block of land has received £1.2 million in farm benefits since 1993. I therefore think the general public probably has a right to come and have a look at what they've done with what I consider taxpayers' money. And therefore we slightly look at the public a little bit differently than most. We've opened a farm shop. We have farm notice boards all over the farm, and we're opening new farm walks all the time. We're just opening 4 new farm walks at the moment, a red walk for cardiovascular workout, a yellow walk for art. We're opening sculptures and paintings and things all around the farm. We have a nature trail, and we have the blue peace and healthy mental health living, where we take you to the corners of the farm for quiet time, for actually earthing yourself, kick your shoes off, and just do some yoga and those sort of things. And there's notice boards explaining what you can do when you get to each and every one of these things. We have a hashtag these days called, of course, Get On My Land. I find it rather strange that as farmers we use the hashtag Get Off My Land, but can you buy British? Slightly ironic. And therefore, in actual fact, when we start engaging with the general public, funny enough, they engage back. We have the most wonderful conversations with the people that walk through our farm. But when they walk through our farm now, exit through the gift shop if you don't mind. You know, have a look in the shop, have a look in the cafe, and we'll just take a little bit of the premium of what everybody else is taking from us. Some things we're doing, and of course I've got to demonstrate what we're producing as well. A little brewery we've opened, lovely little tap house on the farm. What we're amazed about is what is happening with our local community. Our farm is becoming the centre of the community again. It was once in 1930. It is again now. We are having gatherings, whether it be bonfire night, whether it be Christmas carols. We do all these sorts of things, Easter treasure hunt for the children, all these things. And it's becoming more and more popular as, funny enough, the community starts to engage with everything we become part of. And therefore, for me, this whole regenerative journey goes far beyond soil, far behind what we're producing. But actually, when you start listening and asking the questions of your local community, how much they will come and support what you're doing. We engage with NGOs. Come to the farm, come and see what we're doing. Can you support this project I am doing? I'm just, like I said, just about to open an art trail. Funny enough, I asked the Arts Council, I would like to have an access to all art sculpture trail on the farm. Funny enough, they said, what a fantastic idea, how can we support you? And what I'm finding as I'm engaging with more NGOs as demonstrations and things we're doing on the farm to actually show what can be done, they're great people at actually offering solutions to often what I see as a bit of a barrier to the financial cost of doing something. We run a shoot on the farm, slightly different than most, Ed would know, and there's a couple of others actually in the audience, one of our shoot actual members. Our shoot is a community as well. It's something that brings people together for mental health awareness. I know this shooting gets a really bad press, but in actual fact, every 10 days through the dark, dank winter months, we all get together and have a bit of a drink. We have obviously shoot first and then drink, yes. But it's great to actually have a community of people that actually keep turning up on the farm, and different communities. Policymakers. There is no point in moaning about policy if you're not being the person to say, come to my farm, come and listen to my problems. Unfortunately, we've had about 9 agricultural ministers since this photograph was taken, so I'm struggling to keep up with them. But it's, the point being, you know, if you can engage with people and tell them what you're doing, it's amazing how they engage back and start driving policy to suit the way of what we're trying to achieve on our farm. The next thing about regenerating everything is diversity, diversity, diversity. My father spent his lifetime specializing his farm because it became less risky. If you become a specialist in something, you lose the risk. Of course, that became the most risk business model you could ever do. So in actual fact, what we're doing here is doing the absolute opposite. I want to be a jack of all trades and certainly a master of none. I want to spread my risk, and I want to unspecialize. That allows me to de-risk. So we have a quick look at this, diversity, diversity, diversity. I think most people will be familiar. We have a crop of oilseed rape somewhere in my companion crop here. I think that's fairly standard. But what I'll just show and demonstrate is what this field is actually starting to look like in terms of an agroforestry scheme, in terms of the vineyard to the left-hand side, in terms of what our farming landscape is starting to look like. Our agroforestry scheme is underway in terms of planting. On the left-hand side, you can see a line of, obviously, tea. Why wouldn't you plant your own tea? I mean, why wouldn't you? And, of course, you can see the olive trees that we're planting. This is not for me, of course. This is not probably for my children, but my great-grandchildren. Is there going to be a scenario like when my father, the madman, planting the vineyard back in the 90s, is there going to be a scenario where actually olives is going to be a really nice, sustainable crop for generations to come? Diversity in the flood, of course. I'm sure you've all heard me talk about a flood before. If you haven't, a flock and a herd. Mix the things together, it becomes rather quite more simple. We run everything together. Pure simplicity. I'll touch a little bit more on what we do, but diversity of our farm animals. We're no livestock farmers, although we seem to accumulate an awful lot. GRAIL. I do love an acronym. The green retention of arable integration of livestock. What does this mean? Well, essentially, it means I made a mistake, and it turned out to be a fantastic idea and something we're now running with. So our catch crops planted after oilseed rape here, for instance. So it's oilseed rape volunteers. It has buckwheat, phacelia, some linseed, and I think that's about it, bursting clover too. And we direct drill our rape straight into it. There's no glyphosate used. Because in actual fact, what could happen is you end up with a cover crop and a wheat crop. For 2 reasons. I've put here glyphosate and slug-free, because slugs, of course, thrive on dead and decaying material. They also thrive on the very, very new shoots of any new plant because of their very basic sugars. So it stands to reason if you ever want to attract slugs, you grow cover crop, spray it with glyphosate, and plant your brand new crop in it and wonder why we have slug problems. In actual fact, why don't we take the cover crop out well after your wheat is established beyond the slug phase, graze that off, and take as many benefits as you possibly can. Diversity in potatoes. I firmly believed at one stage that I was going to give up growing potatoes until my wife bet me I couldn't grow a regenerative potato. That's like a red rag to a bull when it comes to asking me various questions. I must admit, I'm just waiting for final results this year, but we do believe this year, for the first time ever, we've grown the carbon negative potato across 35 hectares. It is possible when you do things. I'll show a little video of just some things we're doing. Planting companion crop with a potato tuber, buckwheat, vetch, and peas, acidifying the rhizosphere for scab control, acidifying the rhizosphere to allow phosphate to become available, nitrogen fixation of the legumes, flowers from all of those companions providing homes for beneficials to start feasting on peach potato aphid when they become an issue. So it's something we've worked very hard on, and I believe for those that are growing salads, potatoes, sugar beet, those sort of crops, it's not a case of we grow these so we ignore it. You just need to work a little bit harder. Diversity of business. So we have a brewery, we now have a shop, we now have kefir water. Vegans, I love them. There's an opportunity in everything, isn't there? For me, a vegan, when everybody got so upset with vegans, for me, it was like, what can't they get? Because they've certainly got money. Well, kefir water is made, obviously, or kefir is normally made from fermented milk. I look at the byproducts of the Wye Valley of which we live, fruit everywhere. Oversized, overripe fruit being thrown away, essentially being put in AD plants. We go and gather that up, we ferment it, so we naturally ferment the fruit. This is not a sugar ferment, this is an actual fruit ferment, and we make kefir water and sell it at £3.95 a bottle. Mad. We also have a glamp site, something we kind of rushed to build during COVID when it was all about staycation. Made us £55,000 in the first year. It was rather quite an exciting little venture, but it was something that is if you can just be that little bit dynamic and start to find these market trends and the holes in the market, fill them. And then our hands-off vineyard, our bottles of wine that we make, sparkling blush wine. My father was called a madman when he planted his vineyard. Funny enough, we don't call him a madman this year when my gross margin of my vineyard of 0.8 of a hectare is going to return me £255,000. Diversity of people. Oh dear. These are sadly some of my business partners. And I'll touch a little bit more on that, but bringing people and diversity of people and their ideas is absolutely fantastic. Keep it simple, stupid. I'm sure people will probably come across Kernza wheat. If you haven't, it's quite an amazing thing. Perennial wheat. Somebody asked a question about what do we do, how do we overcome second wheat problems? Well, perhaps this is a solution. In actual fact, this wheat here was planted in September the 1st. We're going to harvest it every year for hopefully the next 15 years and see how we go. Perennial wheats, by the land, and the research done by the Land Institute of the US, is quite an amazing thing to keep abreast of. I believe, although somebody's going to tell me I'm not, I grow the first commercial crop of Kernza in the UK. Okay, none of you are growing it. Cool. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen? But for me, what a fantastic thing. Kernza wheat between things like our agroforestry alley crops. My pruning and mowing prevention scheme. There's our vineyard. We thought we were being rather quite lazy. We had various farm tours. Somebody came from a place called Natura that buy all the regenerative food, not all the regenerative food, a lot of regenerative food, and sell it to the top restaurants in London. They thought this was absolutely genius, and therefore signed a contract there and then to take all, although this year we've actually held a pallet back. Funny enough, I do enjoy a drink. But it's really important that actually what you think is so simple, we don't have any hands-on pruning, we don't do anything like that. It's called the hands-off vineyard, purely because we haven't got time to do it. Self-checking of livestock. And I'm going to insult every livestock farmer here, but I just don't know what you do for your day. Because this is how we run our flird. At about 7:30 in the morning, Helen goes and opens the gate. We mob graze, we move them every day. And she opens the gate and everything trots past her, demonstrating their health. She then closes the gate and carries on with the rest of her day. That, I believe, is the livestock checks. I'm not sure what the purpose of jumping in a farm truck, driving around lane after lane after lane, looking at 80 sheep in each field, trying to get them to move to see if they are lame. If they don't walk straight past her, perhaps there might be something wrong with them. They need attention. But 9 times out of 10 in the system we're running, I say 99 times out of 100, it's about a 15-second job, our livestock. It's a very simple way of managing our livestock. These are a load of my business partners. Collaborations and empowerment, keeping things simple. We employ nobody. What we do is a Dragon's Den type of arrangement where people come and pitch up an idea. We hold a weekend in October, we hold a weekend in April. You come to us with a great idea that fits with our ethos of our farm, whether that be these regenerative farmers in Portugal in the top left-hand side. They're 2 of my business partner, João and Sergio. Whether it's our Kefir chap, Ben Walgate, the guys at the local pub, or even Hodge in New York, where we're doing various collaborations. The beauty of it is, if you give empowerment to these people, funny enough, they try and make businesses work because it's theirs. As a sleeping partner, I can help out massively to get them to go and grow and actually expand and do anything necessary. But it's rather quite more interesting for me not to charge them a rent each month for the building they're having, but to become part and an integral part of their business. Appreciation over depreciation. For me, it's about using other people's addiction to power and paint. There seems to be a bit of a problem on UK farms. Brand new tractors, always a bigger, better, harder, faster, more expensive piece of kit. We're surrounded by people that are desperate to come and cut my wheat, to come and plant my cover crops, do all that sort of thing. And when I realised that my combining costs this year didn't actually pay for the guy's service, I kind of think I'm sat rather quite pretty. And interesting enough, the fear of him losing the contract to a neighbour means my wheat gets priority too. He's often cutting my wheat before his own. The other thing that I look at in my flird and appreciation, funny enough, these things have offspring every year that you can sell. For those that have ever seen that Mitchell and Webb farming clip, it's pretty much where I'm at. I was going to play it, but it's a little bit sweary. Perennial cropping, family involvement. There we are planting some of our olive trees. I'm absolutely heartened by the fact that my family is an integral part of my business. I am a family farmer, which means our family farms. This is not the father going out. This is our children. Even Job, my special needs son, as you can see, is rather quite loving it, only because we've just taken the spade off him because he was hacking it to death. But you should make these things fun, enjoyable, and part of a process that actually Tegan on the left with a man killer, understands that what we're doing today is probably for her children, not my children. It's really, really quite amazing. Your biggest asset, Ian's talked about it, Harry's talked about it, I've talked not a lot about it, is soil. As a farmer, let's be honest, what else do you own if you don't own soil? You see it going down the roads, you see it going down the drain. That's like seeing all money pouring out of your bank account and not doing anything about it. Here we grow cover crops as dense as we possibly can on our river plain, because I go fishing for my neighbour's soil. I came up with an amazing elaborative plan of stretching nets all across my fields to catch, because I realised that our fence lines that were put in by my father now only have the top strand of barbed wire showing. They're pretty good at trapping nutrients, they're pretty good at trapping soil. So I designed this amazing elaborate net system to trap soil until Helen pointed out, wouldn't a plant do the same? Sometimes you do need to listen to your wife, you know. So it's really important that we do whatever we can to protect and enhance this asset. I get asked about proof. I think one of the most amazing things of that video, and I don't know whether you saw it, was how green my farm became from 2014 to 2021, 7 years. 7 years of 70% reduction in nitrogen need just by focusing on my soils. For us that are actually growing potatoes, an increase in water retention means a cost saving of around £23,000 on irrigation costs alone. It's massively important to find these things out, and it's really great to see these sort of things. Appreciation of your loved ones, for me, is something that it took me an awful long time, and for those that know my history of mental health problems, I'm amazed I'm stood up here. 3 years ago, I certainly wouldn't have done. It's these guys, and it should be these guys, that celebrate all the things and all the successes you're making on farm. Because in actual fact, what I find amazing, when you build in and pull in your family, what they give in return, not only the support and the love and everything like that, but in actual fact, when I ring my children from Estonia and say, any chance you can move the sheep, they generally say yes. It's pretty cool. For those that actually just saw that, the vineyard clip of the sheep grazing, did anybody notice an alpaca? Okay. There's a reason why we can laugh as a family. So that was in Estonia. Daughters, can you move the sheep in? Yeah, no problem. 3 days later, I rang and said, how's it all going? They said, absolutely fantastic. Little bit of a problem with the alpacas. I thought that was a separate conversation. What do you mean? Well, they've grazed about half a row of grapes. Okay. So that's cost me about £20,000 in terms of grape return. Thankfully, it's only 5% of my farm business. Let's not do that again, yeah? These are the important things that families and how they learn, and the fact we are so diverse that in actual fact, these sort of things don't become this massive problem. We are so obsessed with chasing speciality of the last 1%. In actual fact, why don't you open your minds and gain and make that just the 5% in the first place? And I'll leave you with this. Like I said, the door is always open. I'm rarely there, but I do try and do as many farm walks and talks as I possibly can. We do lots of things with the general public. We take them on a farm walk every Thursday. On a Saturday all through the spring and summer, we do a thing called the Sounds of the Silence Walk. And for anybody that wants to start on this journey of making some cash, here's the business model. You book online onto our Sounds of the Silence tour. It's £20 per head. You arrive in the farmyard, you are not allowed to speak. You arrive at dawn, we walk around the farm, you listen to the bird noise. I have no idea what is singing, so I can't identify it, so nobody can ask me. You then get back into the car and you leave, and then you leave a 5-star review on Google. We made about £3,500 doing our Sounds of the Silence walk this year. £3,500 of sheer profit based on about an hour a week. These things, when you reach out to the general public, there is what